For those of you who don't know, there's a website out there called the Philco Repair Bench, and it's run by a fellow named Chuck Schwark. Now, Chuck is the guy I ordered my Philco schematics for, and I'm waiting for a package of schematics on this radio we're working on right now. It'll be service information as well as schematics, all kind. Whatever he has, he will, for $7, and which includes the shipping and everything, the postage. $7, he will send it to you, whatever he has. It may be 1 page, 2 page, it may be 20 pages. So I'm kind of waiting to see what comes in. I sent my $7 check to him. The way it works is you ask him, you say, you got this? And then he'll come back and say, yes, I do. Send your $7. He's not going to send it out until he gets your check or your money order. Okay, I don't blame him. Anyway, if you go to his website, and you come over here on the left-hand side in the orange part, and you go down to where it says Service Tips. You click on Service Tips, and that will take you to the next page, and you come down, I think it's 7 lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nope, 9 lines. And you'll see something there that says Shadow Meter Repair and Adjustments. And that takes you to this really valuable page that Chuck, I don't think Chuck actually ginned this up. Someone else did it and donated it to the page. You know, and we should all be thankful for folks that do that sort of thing. That really makes life easy for a guy like me, you know. And it tells the old style shadow meters, and these two right here, and then the newer style shadow meter, which is the kind we have. See, with that round back right there and the light bulb, and it fits up against the back. Anyway, I was reading this thing down here, and these are the model radios that have shadow meters. Ours is right there. Right there's ours, a 26. Nope, ours is over here. Sorry about that. Just looking through this camera sometimes gets a little difficult. There's ours right there, the 372670. And you come down here, and it tells you how to adjust first the newer style shadow meters, okay? And that's what we have. And number 2, I read this stuff. I went over it just to refresh my memory, and you should always do that. Don't rely on your memory when you're doing these things. You can wind up breaking things. Go back and take a second look at it if it's been a while. And you come down here and it says, number 2, it says, move the shadow meter coil backwards and forwards until the shadow is within 1/8 of an inch of each side of the screen. They're talking about that little square box that the shadow falls on the dial, behind the dial scale, or in front of the dial scale. But that's not what concerns me. It says, move the shadow meter coil backwards and forwards. Well, how the heck do we do that? Alright, let's do a little bit of experimenting on the old shadow meter. I'm certainly not going to use the new one. The old shadow meter, I kind of got to be careful because some of these wires right here are beginning to come out a little bit right there where that copper area is. I've got to get that coated with some liquid tape. I'm going to do that tomorrow. That's going to be my first priority, to get that thing protected before one of the wires breaks. And you know, it doesn't look, they're kind of loose and just kind of laying there, and I'm afraid I'm going to break one if one hasn't already broken already. I hope not. Anyway, the statement was, move the shadow meter, pardon me, move the shadow meter back and forth until we get the light till the light is within 1/8 of an inch on each side of the screen that it shines on. Now, first question is, well, what's happening when I do that? Well, I'll tell you what's happening is you're controlling the magnetic field that you're getting it centered over the top of the little flapper that's supposed to be in there. There's a little flipper that flips in there back and forth like that, and it's controlled by the magnetic field caused by this coil wire when electricity flows through it. But the problem was, how do I move it back and forth? I mean, that thing was stuck. I mean, it's all one piece practically. But then I began to really look close at it. You know, first of all, Chuck Schwark would not have that statement and that procedure on his website if it wasn't true and it didn't work. So if that's the case, then that means that this coil will move. It means it'll move backwards, and forward. It'll slide back and forth. Well, that's interesting. Well, the first thing I did was I took a brush and some alcohol, and I went around and I cleaned, you know, if this thing is going to slide, then it needs to be cleaned, because there was little pieces of wax and dirt and all kinds of crap down in there. So I went ahead and cleaned it real good, best I could. And then I grabbed a hold of the flat part with one hand, and I grabbed a hold of this big black area here with the little, you know, with the little grip marks on it. They're all filled up with wax right now when they sealed that coil. And I began to rotate it left and right to see if it would move. Sure enough, it actually rotates left and right, but that didn't mean a thing, you know. I mean, it's mounted on there. If I put enough pressure, of course it's going to move. But I was real careful. I didn't want to, you know, break it, because this is kind of a backup or whatever. Anyway, I kept cleaning it and kept cleaning it, and then eventually, sure enough, I was able to actually take this thing. Let me get a hold over here where the coil isn't. Let me see here. I eventually took that thing, and I was able to take my fingers and my thumb, get over here in the light, and watch. It slides. Did you see that? It slid right up against this plate right here. How about that? It actually slid. I should be able to slide it back the other way. And it does. Is that cool? Now I know why the plastic is broken off right here, exposing the coil. People have been adjusting this thing, and the plastic got brittle over the years, and it just broke. How about that? So I think the object here is to get that little flapper on the inside kind of centered between one side of the coil and the other. And that's why you would slide the whole thing back and forth. Now, wasn't that educational? I thought it was. Now, let's take the next one. Now, this is our new shadow meter. And what I'm going to do is leave it right where it's at until I find out whether or not it needs adjustment. This was a great one to experiment on. I hope I didn't do any damage to it. One of our subscribers named Don Hiscock, he said he would like me to do a video on soldering and what kind of iron to use. Well, right now I'll cover the iron. Except for wattage, you know, how much heat the iron puts out, you know, 15 watts, 25, 60, 80, 100, whatever. Except for that, and the quality of the build. All soldering irons are basically the same. You've got an electrical cord, you've got a handle to grip it with, and most of them even slip off if you don't like that. I like it. And there's a heating element in here, and then you have your tip. Other than that, they're all pretty much the same. Now, depending on how much money you want to spend is what you're going to get. Now, I've had this particular iron. This is a Weller W60. It's a 60 watt iron that I've had since the 70s. I got it somewhere, I don't even remember where. And I just basically, used it around the house to solder wires and things like that. It really never got any real extensive use until I started repairing these old radios. So that's one recommendation. I would, if I were to buy another iron, if this one goes out, I will buy another Weller. But they're not cheap, okay? But they're good. I mean, like I said, I've had this thing since the 70s, and it still works perfectly. And the tip I use, I like the 1/8 inch wedge tip. Now, this soldering iron holder, or soldering iron stand, whichever you want to call it, I picked up at Radio Shack. It was real cheap, and you could tell it was cheap because every time I stuck my iron in it, it wanted to flip over and fall over. I hated that. Why would Radio Shack even sell a piece of crap like that? So I had to modify it. It was the only place I could find one, by the way. That's why I bought it. But it's, typical of the stuff Radio Shack sells these days. Just total crap. Anyway, I modified it. And the way I modified it, at work, we have a metal shop in there, and they had a piece of scrap steel. And I went ahead and I looked at it and I put it on the bottom. I said, my God, that's exactly the size I need. Look at that. And then I put some felt round pads on it to keep it from scratching. It looks like a couple have fallen off. I better get those back on. I hadn't even realized that. Anyway, this piece of heavy steel, is it keeps it from falling off. I mean, I can bang it and bang it and bang it, and it just won't go. See, and the way I throw my iron in there all the time, it really does help to having that heavy base on there. That heavy base, very important. By the way, I fastened this big chunk of steel to the bottom of this holder with some just JB Weld. I just put a bunch of JB Weld all over it, a couple of globs, and then I just took the holder and set right down on it because the holder's flat underneath. And set right down on there and let it set overnight. And next morning I taped it off and spray painted it black. Now, if my iron craps out on me, the next one I will buy to take its place, I'm going to really step it up. This one here with free shipping on eBay is $112.59, and it's a Weller outfit. It's heat controlled, and it comes with a stand, just like I have. I don't know if it's weighted or not. It's a nice little setup. Got your little sponge there, and it has the more modern looking style of. Let me see. Let me get this thing over here. More modern looking style. See, now that's got that little really pointed tip there. I don't like those at all. I do not like those. I like the 1/8 inch wide, the wedge type. So that's the best I can do right now. They're pretty expensive, like I said, but you buy something like that, you'll never need another one. It'll last you a lifetime. Well, we got our large envelope in from Chuck Schwark, the Philco repair bench guy. He's the one for $7. He'll send you all the data he has on a given radio. So let's see what he had on this 372670. Well, the data looks pretty much what I already got from writers on the internet, except it's very clear. I can read it now. There's no smudging of numbers or just individual components. It looks very nice back there. Same basic thing I have, except it's all clear. Here's some more stuff. Here's a tube layout, parts list. Tells me how to adjust the shadow meter, which I had already gotten off of his website. And this is what I like the most: a large, schematic to work from. And this is important, and I'll tell you why. I can already tell you why it's important to me. Let me get a better pencil. I need one that's got a point here. Come on, people, where's the pencil with a point? Well, I guess I don't have one. I'll just have to use this here. Right here, this capacitor right here, this is an electrolytic. It's part 86 alpha. I couldn't even hardly make that out on the schematic I was using. And it turns out, I wasn't too sure, but I needed to find out. It turns out that the positive end is hooked to ground. On 86A, what we have is the negative to negative on this 8 microfarad and 10 microfarad, but the positive end of the 10 microfarad is connected to ground. That's important. I couldn't quite make that out on the schematic I was using. It was all blobbed up right there. So this has already been a worthwhile investment, and I like this big schematic I can work from. Wherever this radio goes, this schematic and the rest of this data will go with it. This is almost turning out to be a mishmash video. You remember in the beginning when we first started this project, for those of you who were around, this on-off and tone control shaft had been broken clean off. It came up through the bottom here like so, and somehow it had been broken clean off. If I can get the stupid thing in there. Get in there now. And it didn't even stick out the front, see? So anyway, I told you that I was going to bring it to a machinist that works in where I work. He's very good at what he does. So I took it in. I took it into his boss, and we molded over and looked at it. And I provided him with a shaft from another volume control that I had. It was a new one, but I was willing to sacrifice it to get this baby, maybe working again. Well, here's what this fella did. He bored a hole down through the center. Look at that, exactly in the center of that shaft. Then he took the shaft that I gave him from the other volume control that I had, and he milled it down. And then he put a little step there, if you can see it, a little lip at the very bottom right there. Okay? So now what we've got is we can take this and set it down inside there. It fits perfectly. Fits perfectly. Now we take this baby and we stick it down on there like so. like that. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to, glue it down in there. This shaft, I've got some JB Weld. I'll just put a little bit down at the bottom. I'm not going to bring it anywhere close up to the, I'm not going to bring it up anywhere close to right here. I'm just going to stick the glue down in the bottom there, way down in the bottom with a toothpick. But there's going to be enough to hold it in there, and then it will dry. And when that happens, this will be glued in. Now the question is, how do I keep it in there so it doesn't, fall back like that? We need it to come up there and make contact with these little, these contacts up here. It can't be allowed to fall back like so. Well, that's where the genius of our machinist. His name is Victor, and he's the genius that came up with this idea. He cut that little lip on there. Let's see if I can get a good focus here. I want you to see it. So now when I take my thumb and press it up, look at that. You see that little, let me see, get it in the sun. Maybe you can see it a little better if I get to that focus. You see that little slot up here at the top there? Right there, right at the base, right there. Anyway, when I push up a little bit on the bottom of my thumb, a little slot appears. And all I have to do is take this snap ring, after it's all glued together, I can push it up with my finger, like so, get that slot to appear, and then take this snap ring and put right around there and into that slot. And then that thing will be in there good and snug. And then all I have to do is put the switch back on the rear. And people, we are back in 1937 on-off tone control business. Now, was that cool or not? All right, last but not least, another box arrived today from a feller named Randall. Randall from Virginia. I knew it was coming in. He had told me about it. So let's go ahead and open up and see what's in this one. We got a styrofoam cover of some kind. All right. We got some bags. There's a card in it addressed to John, Wifey, and Grandma. That's cool, Randall. And down on the bottom, we have a big, heavy item. So let's get that baby unwrapped and see what's in there. Alright, let's get it on out of there. I'll tell you what, I'm kind of looking forward to this. Yeah. Ooh, look at that. Look at there. What you're looking at is homemade strawberry pancake syrup. Randy makes that stuff, and he asked me, I helped him, I guess, a while back, a little something he needed on a radio project, and he asked me, he says, how would you like to have a quart of my homemade strawberry pancake syrup? And he said, I didn't want to just send it because, how some folks are, they're afraid it won't be, sterile. And he said, I assure you it's 100% safe. I make it, I drink it, it's great. My family loves it and all that sort of thing. And my answer to him was, do you mean it's not here yet? We love pancakes, the wifey and Grandma and myself. And he sent that to us. I just cannot wait to open that up and give that a try. I'm going to try to talk Wifey into making some pancakes or waffles this weekend. We're going to give that a shot. Man, that even looks good. And in the card, he says, thank you very much. And then a couple of $1 lottery tickets from Virginia and a $5 lottery ticket from Virginia. This ought to be interesting. In the next video, not this one, but in the next video, we will scratch these cards, people. And I think what I'm going to do, we haven't really won anything. That group of guys that sent me those lottery tickets for Christmas, and what we win, $2? And I sent that back to Nathan. I told him to get a cup of coffee with it. I'm going to go ahead and scratch, and if we win big money, especially on this $5 one, my goodness, we can win up to $200,000. We're going to include Randall in this now. Now we're up to what? I guess that's what we're up to eight people in this. If we win, we'll split it 8 ways. That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Of course it would. That's what we're going to do. And I don't think Randy would mind a bit. Now here's the card. He said, Wifey and Grandma, hope you enjoy your strawberry syrup. Feel free to give John a bite if you want to. Wait a minute. You know what do they say? Possession is 9/10 of the law or something. Then he says, thanks a lot. Even though you didn't have to do it, you did it anyway, and it was much appreciated. Here's a little something as a thank you for all the advice and help you've given me. Enjoy, sincerely, Randy Elliott. Well, I'll tell you, Randy, I really appreciate that. I don't ever do much when I help folks. You know, a little bit of advice here, a little bit of advice there. You know, it's all. You know, I've had 1,000,000 pounds of advice over the years, so a little payback now and then. I figure I owe it. Okay. Thanks, Randy, and this made for a really nice finishing point on this video. So we'll wrap this one up here, guys, and more surprises next time. Believe me. Until then, this is John.